It's Women's History Month in the UK. What a time and what a season. Now, when it comes to conversations like this in the African context, we could talk a lot about amazing, high achieving women like Chimamanda or Amina Mohammed, or even historical figures like Anna Nzinga or Ya Asantewa. There are so many amazing women from different industries and walks of life whose legacies continues to touch us till today. I think there's a saying, to raise a woman is to raise a village, and I think that saying is very true. But today, we're not going to talk about all of those global sensations. Instead, we're going to focus on the everyday change makers that we all know and love, and those are mums. Yes. Now, I personally haven't experienced what it is to be a woman, nor do I identify with that, so I'm not going to talk about issues or problems faced there. But what I have done is observe, like many of us, the things that an amazing person in my life has been through, which is my mom, and today that's what we're going to talk about. Mummy power. So I recently interviewed someone. His name is Hasan. His story by itself is amazing. After being ill and bedridden for 3 whole years after graduating, he turned his disadvantage into his opportunity. I can't give his story justice, so I'm just gonna let him say a bit. Here it goes.
I had an autoimmune disease called spondylitis, ankylosing spondylitis. Basically, it's like hip pains, back pains. Kind of, they don't let you get up, move easily. Pretty much bedridden.
Mm.
And but I had a computer.
But I had a laptop. I love that. One of the main themes from this interview was to not get limited by your situation, but instead use that situation to transform yourself. But that's not a simple or easy mentality to have and just randomly approach life is. If it was, the world would be a very different place, but he didn't get this thinking out of nowhere. He had an amazing example, an amazing story of overcoming that came from an amazing role model in his life, which was his mom. A long time ago, I wrote this article called The African Mum Effect. I'll link it below in case you're curious and want to read it, but in it, I told this story. I'm paraphrasing it a lot here, but this is how the story went. So, one sunny spring Saturday, I was walking down a corridor and looked outside the window and saw a bunch of my friends playing football. They were enjoying the prime of their youth. And truth be told, at the time, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't doing the best. I was a bit behind. And so I told myself, this weekend, I'ma study, I'ma catch up, I'm just focus. But youth, right? They were just enjoying themselves. So I was just like, you know what? I need a break. I haven't been focusing, so I need to go out. I need to play some football. I need just 1 hour. 1 hour, and then you know what? I'm gonna come back to my room and I'ma study. I'ma be focused. It's gonna be chill. So I headed back to my room, getting ready to change, when as I walked, I suddenly heard this voice in my head, oh, Bina! Yo, the way I swiveled, you can see the smoke from my soles, you know what I mean? It was mad. I swiveled and turned around to look at the ghosts of whoopings past, but there was no one there. In the end, I went back to my room and just focused and studied. But that, my friends, is what I call the African mum effect. The latest sensation sweeping the nations. And no, it doesn't just come from the PTSD of past whoopings. It also comes from the daily examples of an everyday source of inspiration. From work ethic to how to interact with people in the community, learning the right time to speak versus staying silent, there is just so many lessons to learn. But the main one we are talking about today comes from the example set by Hassan's mom, using today's obstacles as tomorrow's opportunities.
Yeah, I remember when her salary was equal her rent.
Wow.
So food and water and electricity
Yeah.
and like gas and everything. That's how do you get that? So one of her tricks, which ended up actually helping her a lot in life, is she ended up doing a lot of networking, which is
Okay.
really a big thing of how she ended up in her progression, and she's getting invited to all sorts of dinners and events, and in these dinners they have free food. And so part of
Oh, okay.
that was very utilitarian, but that ended up, it's like she ended up
Yeah.
knowing all sorts of people who were like, oh, do you want this other job and do you want to progress? And
According to 2021 census data, in the UK, there are approximately 3 million single parent families. Another sort of pandemic. I was raised by one, Hasan was raised by one. In fact, this accounts for 15% of the UK population, which is a lot to say the least. But it also means that my story and Hasan's story is just part of a larger narrative that we're all facing. But we're not going to go into that today. You know what it is. But that fact leads to the first lesson I learned from that conversation: the power of choice. Life is not like a multiple choice question where before you come out the womb you can pick location, affluence, a couple more inches, like that. No, it's more like giving a 1,000 piece puzzle but without the box. So you don't know what it's meant to look like. You don't know what the picture's meant to be like, but you still have to make the picture. But once given the puzzle, you do have something. You have a choice, right? Do I do this or let it go? Which puzzle piece do I start with? Stuff like that. Hasan's mom had a similar choice. Remember, at some point, her rent was her salary. Now imagine raising a young boy, switching countries. I'm sure she went through tides and waves of emotions. But throughout all of this, she did have one choice, and that choice was to go out there, meet people, network, get out of the environment that she currently lives in to see something more than where she is about. And through doing that networking, she met people that helped her raise her career, get the job that was needed to get into the industry that she wanted to be in, and rise up the ranks. And a plus one to this experience is that in all of these networking events, there was free food. So 2 birds with a 1 stone, get free food and meet people to further yourself. Hasan also had a choice. When the doctors went and told him, hey, you may never be able to walk again, he had a choice whether to just rest in that and just binge on TV shows, which he did. He did say he did binge TV shows, he did watch all the YouTube, but he also said, I have a computer. And so he went and found free resources online to teach him how to code, how to make games, how to get ahead of his current situation, because there was a decision to be made and he made it. Choices. The decision of a mother unknowingly set an example, set a pace for her son to take him to a future that no one would have dreamed of. Now it's all well and good to say all of that, but when you're stuck in the mud, I don't care how woke you are, the first thing you're thinking about is not like, oh, I must overcome this. Nah, you're thinking, my shoes, or something like that, right? You're thinking, my shoes. My shoes. Sorry. Now it's all well and good to be saying all of that, but when you're stuck in the mud, it's not like your first thought, no matter how woke you are, is like, I'm gonna overcome this. Nah, it's gonna be more like, my shoes, right? Which leads to the next point. Perspective. What are the different angles one can look at the same problem at to see it through a new lens? Perspective to me is one of the biggest and one of the most important things to have out there, and honestly it's something that I'm really trying to learn right now. Essentially, even if you have a choice, if you're not in the mental space to see it, you can't see it. Essentially, if you think you're doing bad, even if some things are good, all you're gonna see is the bad. If you see the limit, if all you can see is the limits of a situation, it's hard to see the opportunities within it. Now this one is difficult because it means getting outside of your own head to see the situation for what it really is. Hasan gave a great example of how his mom did this. How she sent her son to a school that she by all means could not afford. Now, I'm not sure about you, but if I go to a shop that I can't afford or see a section that's a bit outside my budget, I'ma count my losses and walk in the other direction. I don't believe in that sort of temptation. And I'm not saying to people to start buying stuff that they can't afford, telling the shopkeeper, yo, but if you change your perspective. No. But how many times do we walk away from an opportunity because we believe that at that point in time we're not ready for it? Or walk away from someone that we want to talk to because we don't believe we're on their level? I know I have. But again, the story on display here in Hasan's mom, she didn't care about those self-imposed limits, but instead saw it from the potential upside of me trying this is way more than the potential pain of rejection or unaffordability. I think some people's ability to just look at a situation and switch their perspective, to me, it's a superpower. And honestly, different people have ways of going about this. Some people talk about gratitude journals and that works for them. Others talk about like thinking frameworks and that works for others. But from what I saw and heard in that interview, from the example given from Hasan's mom, I think it's something a lot more emotional. An inner beast. It's this or it's nothing. Because if I can't figure this out, if I can't make a way, there is someone behind me that's gonna suffer. Therefore, there is a way, right? It's a lot more emotional. It's something I presume many single parents go through, especially moms, right? Perhaps it's even a thing that created the idea of the strong, independent black woman, right? If not me, then who? There is no one else. Therefore, I must go. I must make a way because that is the only way. I think it's that mentality that allows people to switch their perspective and see choices that otherwise wouldn't be there to lead them out of a situation. Not to say that they'll always make the right choice, because we're human at the end of the day, but rather you're gonna make a choice and make it right. The example given by many amazing single moms is invaluable. To turn this situation that statistically speaking seems rather dire, seems to create felons and kids that may not lead the best of life, and instead to turn that into an opportunity to raise yourself, to raise the family and all those that are connected to you. It's amazing. It's an everyday inspiration. And in a month like this month, Women's History Month, it's a shining example of the history women make every day. Not just the celebs, but everyday moms. And that is the African mom effect. It's that time again. 1:15 sundown. Just enough time to mellow from the day's rent. Just enough time to figure out exactly it is you meant. Just enough time to repent. But you didn't. Instead, you bided your time on Love Island instead. Now your cheeks are rippling waves of disrespect. And you firm it cause you low-key deserve it. Cause your manners had some neglect. You get the African mum effect. Now some are confused and offended, but you all know what I mean. Sat round the campfire telling stories of beatings past cause you and me both have PTSD. Now I'm not condoning violence, but I'd always prefer love-filled beats than emotional silence. Her hand hit my skin but touched my heart. Hurt all the same, but those moments, they set me apart. See, my mom's actions created a compass in me. Showed me left from right. Kept nonsense out of sight, meant wherever I went, I had a subtle dose of terrifying love, giving me just enough advice to make me think twice. People, my life is a product of the African mum effect. There was a mutual respect cause we both had homework. She her masters and me my times tables. Those nights at the dining table made our lives turn tables. Scratch the blemishes and the spots, I saw her turn a little to a lot. God made me hit the jackpot cause much like a numerator, my mom made sure we were always on top. The African mum effect. The willingness to bow for today to stand for tomorrow. To push through what many may call sorrow with joyous jubilation cause life's all about the elevation. See, I remember when I was 10. A big boy now in the double digits. You know, the best things in life comes in twos, cause with big boy status came big boy change, specifically in pounds sterling. So I'm jumping around doing 360s cause my biggie bank just turned 250. And then I remembered my times tables and wanted to multiply my newfound earnings with the African mum effect. So I gave it to my mum with a promise to get my pay back, but it turned out that for 9 months I forgot to pay tax, so this was her payback. It's all good though, cause as I move forward I need to pay it back, cause she worked so I would never lack. Brace my mind for mental pushback and prepare my wallet so should I have a daughter, I won't get a heart attack. Inspire a generation yet seen to know the place of love and protect it, no matter the means. A debt that can only be paid by following the path laid. That is the African mum effect. Hopefully this video was somewhat interesting to you. If anything, hopefully made you curious about Hasan and Hasan's mum's story. If you're curious about that, please check the link in the bio below. I wrote a poem one time and I had a line in that went like this: the first step is the hardest, but 100 first steps and you'll forget where the start is. I know. Bars. But I think it relates to this conversation around choices and shifting perspective. It's hard, but I don't think anything worth doing is easy. It takes practice, repetition, failing and getting up again, and rinsing and repeating that moment until one day you look back and you can't even remember when the transformation happened because you're already transformed. Doing these interviews is always interesting because I learn something different every time. Everyone has their own story, but not everyone believes that their story is worth telling. But interviewing someone like Hasan, hearing about his life, but also the impact of his mom, makes me relate to my own mom. So yeah, I love this story and I love telling it. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm gonna talk to my mom now. Peace.